Hey, good morning, everyone, and happy Wednesday. Thank you for joining us today to learn a little bit more about how our API operates and how you can potentially leverage this to save time and automate actions on Fieldwire. Before we begin, we're just going to give everyone a minute to settle in and just get ready for some of the upcoming content. So it's going to give a minute for everyone to get settled in, and feel free to leverage our chat and questions if you have anything that you'd like us to look into. Sweet. Well, let's get started here. My name is Will, and I am a CSM here at Fieldwire. Been in this industry for a little bit of time, and on my end, mainly worked on residential ICI and some of the commercial projects. And I think one thing that I would like to do today is to walk a little bit through how API works on our end. And I guess I'll just gonna go through a little bit of housekeeping items before we begin. This webinar will be recorded, and you will receive a recording of today's session and also a slide deck after today's webinar. And to ensure a smooth session, all attendees will be muted, but please don't hesitate to ask questions or anything that you want us to look into from the Q&A panel. And we'll wrap up today with a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. And we will do our best to address as many questions as we can, but due to time constraints, sometime we might not be able to get to everyone. So for any questions that we aren't able to get to, we'll have someone reach out to you directly. Additionally, we also planted some poll questions during the webinar for you to participate in. So please feel free to select your answer when the questions pop up. And additionally, we have a short 5-question survey at the end of the webinar. So we would appreciate if you could fill it out. It really helps us determine the usefulness of these content and help us plan for future webinars. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome our product manager, Jacob, and some of our guest speakers today from Novo and Maryland Transit Solution.
Hey everybody, Jacob Abershall here, Technical Product Manager at Fieldwire. I'm a bit newer to the construction space, but I've been in tech, building API integrations and reporting dashboards for some time now. Again, specifically API integrations, dashboards, and other data processing pipelines. Excited to talk to you all about API today.
And we also have Colin today from Novo Construction. Colin, maybe a quick intro on your own.
Yeah, hi, I'm Colin Stoner. I'm the CIO with Novo Construction. We are a Bay Area commercial general contractor focused on TIs, and just going to be here to speak about the way we've leveraged the Fieldwire API and things we're looking to do with it in the future.
Thanks, Colin. Glad to have you here today. And we also have Raymond from MTS, Maryland Transit Solutions.
Good morning, I'm Ray Mongroe. I'm a document control manager here at Maryland Transit Solutions. I've been in document control for over 20 years. I'm here today to talk to you about how Fieldwire's API is helping our project.
Sweet, thanks Raymond. And last but not least, Ziad.
Hi everyone, my name is Ziad Abdurrahman. I'm the document control specialist with MTS. I've been in this field for 13 years. I'm going to do a presentation how it works between Econex, the document management system we use, and Fieldwire.
Awesome, thank you, Ziad. And before we dive into the webinar today, if you could just take a quick moment to fill out the next 2 poll questions, just so you can learn a little bit more about you and understand who joins some of these webinars, and allows us to kind of understand what we should do for our upcoming ones as well. And yeah, for folks who are new to the webinar, the poll should just pop up on your screen, and you can just select the answer and click submit. So there are going to be 2 quick back-to-back ones. and one more today for us to understand kind of what your role is as well and what you do for your company. So I guess over here, we have a couple options today. We're focused on API, so we were thinking there might be some folks that are from the IT or tech support team. But if you're in other teams as well, please feel free to click others. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. So today's webinar will be a little bit different compared to our past webinars, mainly because this webinar is entirely focused on APIs. And if you're interested to learn more about other topics or subjects related to Fieldwire, please feel free to check out our webinar page. We have a ton of past webinars that are recorded that you can access for free, and a variety of contents from specific workflows that you can manage on Fieldwire, using specific features, et cetera, et cetera. So with that said, let's take a look at what we have in store today. To begin, Jacob will cover what an API is and how you can benefit from this feature. Next up, we will showcase two real-world examples from Novo Construction and Maryland Transit Solutions on how you can benefit from leveraging our API. And then following that, we'll also discuss some of the upcoming API features that we're working on, and finally wrap up with a Q&A session. And with that said, out of curiosity, are you familiar with what an API is? Just gonna launch this poll question here. Got a mixture of answers there, so that's good. Sweet. With that said, I will now hand it over to Jacob to walk through a little bit about what is an API.
Cool, thanks, Will. Yeah, like Will said, I just wanted to give a brief overview about what an API is. It looks like there's a pretty good split on the poll as to understanding about what the API is. So before we get too deep in examples, I just wanted to give an overview of kind of how it works. So yeah, what is an API? I like to use this analogy when thinking about it. So imagine the different applications that you might be using as their own sort of data island. So Fieldwire, you might have some drawings or tasks data or files. And these could be like different packages on the island. And then maybe on SharePoint, you also have some files that might be relevant for Fieldwire. And so it can be tricky because you have these two sources of information that have some overlap and you need to kind of keep them in sync. So in order to move that data between these two islands, you'll really need two different things. One would be like a loading dock, that would be our API. And then two would be a boat to actually move things back and forth. That would be kind of a computer program, a script, or some other application. And so in this example, the dock or the API is really defining how you can interact or load or unload the different packages between each island. And the boat is really doing the work of moving it back and forth. So to kind of drive that point home, the API is simply just the interface to interact with the info, but you'll still need to do some extra work, some extra development to have something that actually moves the data back and forth. So I hope that makes sense. We'll dive into a couple examples next of what you could actually do with it. So yeah, what can we actually do with it? One of the main top level use cases is pulling data from Fieldwire. So let's say you have some executives that are really interested in what's been going on the job sites. You have a lot of really rich data that's being collected in Fieldwire. So you're collecting data on what's going on in tasks. Maybe you're using the manpower and cost to kind of identify how much work is actually being done. You might be using task checklists to get a better sense of the progress on each of these individual tasks. And so you have a lot of executive oversight that's needed just to kind of get a better sense of what's been going on. So you might have your boss come to you and say like, hey, can you put together a report with all the data that we're starting to collect in Fieldwire? So you go into Fieldwire and you realize, Well, it's not just one project. We have a dozen different projects where we're collecting this data that they want to see. So what you'd have to do is manually go into each project, download all of that task data as a CSV, compile all of those different CSVs in some sort of spreadsheet or Excel document, reformat it, and then put some sort of visualization on top of it. You could imagine if they needed this on a weekly basis, you could easily spend a few hours, if not an entire day, going through this process. And there is always the potential that there is some manual error along the way that could lead to some issues with the reporting. So with the API, what you can do is you can really automate a lot of that data collection process from Fieldwire. You can use the API to quickly grab all of the data, all the task data from each of your projects across the board rather than going one by one. And if you wanted to take it to the next step, you could have the computer program that's using the API do a lot of that reformatting in a standardized way, or potentially even build those visualizations in some sort of dashboarding software. So you're really taking something that could be taking an entire day down to something that would run over a couple minutes. And with that added efficiency, you can report on this data more often. So rather than going from a weekly report, you could potentially create a real-time dashboard for your executive team to look at on a real-time basis. And in this example, we are talking about tasks, but our API covers all of the main Fieldwire entities. So you can think if you have data in forms, files, or plans that is similar, all of that's eligible under our API. Next slide. Cool. So in the last example, we were talking mostly about pulling data out of Fieldwire. But with an API, you can also push data into Fieldwire. So let's say that you're using Fieldwire to keep track of the different tasks that need to be done on the job site, the different milestones that need to be completed, and it's really your source of truth for your team in the field to make sure that they're doing all the right things. So they're uploading task photos or uploading forms, and they really rely on that accurate task data to make sure that they're doing the right thing at the right time. You're also working in a field where there are constant changes. So the GC that you might be working with could be changing the task schedule on a weekly basis or even multiple times a week. So in a manual, if you're to try to do this manually, you would need to, every time that changes, go to the GC's scheduling software, download the latest list of tasks, reformat that to fit the Fieldwire content, and then import that task data back into Fieldwire. And again, that might not be so bad for one project, but if you're overseeing a few different projects or even up to a dozen, you could see how this takes a lot of time and a lot of time away from more meaningful work. So again, using the tasks API, you could have your computer program automate a lot of that data input for you. So not just saving you time in the process of getting that data into Fieldwire, but also ensuring that the data is really accurate going in. The last thing you'd want is to incorrectly add some task data that delays your team or even has them doing the wrong thing. So in this case, you get both the benefit, again, of time savings and also accuracy. And similar to the previous example, it's not just tasks that you can do this for. All of the other Fieldwire entities, forms, plans, files can also be written to with our API. And so those were a couple of theoretical examples. I'll pass it back to Will and the team to kind of go over some real life examples that our folks have built out.
Sweet. Thanks, Jacob, for the detailed explanation. I think today is also, our first time kind of talking about APIs on a webinar front. So if you have any questions, definitely let us know. We're happy to kind of table them as well. And out of curiosity, just for everyone on the call today, has your company utilized or built out API integrations in the past? Not just specific to Fieldwire, for other software as well. And we just want to kind of understand on a basis, how often are APIs used for companies? And as we're kind of going through this, if not, let's say, for example, you're not aware or you're not sure if it's API is something that's suitable for your company, I would highly recommend looking into actions that you find highly inefficient or even time consuming. that could be a good point to start out on, how to practically use our API. The examples that Jacob raised a little bit earlier is a really good start to kind of get some of these things going. But again, it's such a flexible tool that, we just need to define what needs to be done so we can get to that point. And one additional note is, if you don't have the resources to build out, let's say, the API integration you want, we do have some of our trusted third-party developers who can build integrations and who have built out integrations for some of our previous clients in the past. So if you're interested, definitely drop us a line and we'll kind of make sure we get attended to that. And with that said, going over to Novo, and thank you again, Colin, for being on the call today. So just a little bit of introduction on how Colin and his team uses API is they mainly use API to retrieve drawings from Fieldwire and then seamlessly import it into their internal software, Sentinel, which can then be used to access and reference when drafting subcontracts. And I guess just a couple questions, Colin, maybe we can kind of clear up the these questions from the team. Is out of curiosity, how does the integration work, Colin, just on a high level?
The integration just pulls a couple times a day or about hourly, just updates with our projects that would be linked in over to Fieldwire, but it's all pulling the data, nothing getting pushed.
Sweet. And overall, how has this integration benefited the team?
As you sort of touched on, it's kept things very efficient for us. We use Fieldwire as a single source of truth for all of our drawing documents. So being able to have that as our base set and then pull it into an existing system to then be able to reference it, access it, just keep everything that much quicker. It's been pretty smooth.
Sweet. And I guess, is it possible to have a look and peek into what that integration looks like? I'm sure everyone would.
Of course, that's why we're here. So for our purposes, we utilize this project code section. So you can see we have our internal job number here. That takes us back into our internal system and allows us to link into that Fieldwire project. So then simply from our drawings page, our people can come in here, pull up the site plan, and it quick links them right back into Fieldwire. So it's an easy way for them to not necessarily have to do all the clicks if they're already in the project management system, which they typically already are. It's just a quick route back into Fieldwire. Our second use case for this is being able to assign drawings to a subcontract. So in this case, we just have a fake electrical subcontract. So we could select the drawing sets that would be pertinent to that subcontractor for filling out their scope of work. We assign those, and then in our contract, we can see the drawings all pulled through and referenced there so that when they're going through doing their scope of work, it's very specific to what is expected of them.
Awesome. Thanks for bringing us under the hood. And what steps or resources did you take or did you need to get this set up for the team?
For us, we leverage APIs a couple thousand times a day internally. We use DocuSign, we use Box, we use ChatGPT. So, the developer documents provided by Fieldwire were more than sufficient to get us started. I think we even contributed to some Python open source programs as well early on. So, we're very immersed in this world. It's right up our alley. So it definitely just fits the mold and is easy to run with.
That's awesome. And we're glad to see the, I guess, versatility of, APIs being leveraged across Sentinel. And I guess, are you looking to build any new integrations in the future? If so, what do you think these integrations could look like with Fieldwire?
I think the one we want to touch on next is taking our completed RFIs and submittals, auto pushing those out to the relative project in Fieldwire, so then people can start linking those documents directly in their drawings. And then that also gives the project team outside of our project management software access to that finished PDF with all the information of the submittal or the RFI.
Sweet. That's sounds like a good way just to kind of give everyone access to the information without having someone, let's say, for example, manually uploading all these documents to Fieldwire. That's definitely a big step, I think, to
nobody likes manual uploads.
Yes, I can attest to that. Sweet. Thanks, Colin. Anything else you'd like
Thanks,
to
Will.
add before we dive on into our next highlight here?
I think that was everything I had for you guys.
Sweet. And moving on next, let me just share my screen
I
here.
gotcha.
Oh, thanks, Colin.
I gotcha.
Awesome. All right. And for our next contestant here, we got Maryland Transit Solution, Raymond and Ziad will be walking through how their team uses API to save time on uploading drawings into Fieldwire by creating an integration that kind of does the opposite of what Colin does. It's pushing drawings directly from AConnects, which some of you may know, directly into Fieldwire. And with that said, I guess, Raymond, first question for you is, how does this integration work, and how has it benefited the team?
As you said, we are currently using Fieldwire's application, a programming interface on the Maryland Transit Authority's Purple Line project. The Purple Line is a new line, a light rail train line that's 16 miles long with 21 stations. Fieldwire enables us to access release for construction drawings along the 16-mile corridor using our tablets or iPhones for the we don't have to go back to the office. We can access all the data outside on the on the project out in the field.
Awesome. And I guess in terms of benefits, would you say there's a pretty solid time saving from similar to Colin on this, like uploading and kind of
It's very beneficial because it saves tons of time. Our superintendents, our foremen, they don't have to come into the office to download the files and then go back out into the field. They can access all the data, all the drawings in real time out in the field, via their iPhones or iPads. So that if a version of a drawing that they're constructing on changes, they get that change almost immediately, without having to, like I say, come back and upload or download. It saves tons of time.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I guess similar question. What type of resources did you need or take to get this set up for your team?
Well, the process of integrating AConnects, our EDMS, with Fieldwire was pretty seamless. It only took 2 weeks. Initially, we had to plan what we wanted Fieldwire to do, so we had to, once we got that out of the way, then the Oracle, AConnects is through Oracle, the Oracle API team and the Fieldwire API team got together, and they were the boat, I guess. AConnects was the dock, and Fieldwire was the other dock, and the two teams created the system that's where they talk to each other and allowed for our drawings to be integrated onto Fieldwire.
Gotcha. And I remember you mentioned it was an Oracle. Oracle has a team that kind of helps out with building these API connections. And to your knowledge, is it easy to access this, and how's the response and everything been with them?
Everything's perfect. I mean, like I say, the Oracle team and the Fieldwire team pretty much did everything. They work together. Once I made the plans, I just sat back and those guys, the two teams pretty much made my plans into reality.
That's awesome and great to hear. I think to see the integrations across platforms, I think that's definitely where we're headed towards in the industry. And with that said, let's take a look under the hood. I'll hand it over to Ziad to walk us through a little bit on how this integration works. Does that sound like a plan?
Hi, everyone. I'm going to talk about the presentation. I'm going to do the presentation, how the integration works between AConnects and Fieldwire. The first step for us as an MTS team, we receive from our design team all the design drawings that are released for construction on AConnects. So I'm here sharing my screen with you with the AConnects. Let's say if we receive a design package S423 maintenance of traffic design package. The first step, we go to this package, and the two things that we need to make sure everything is correct, we go to overhead documents first. and we see the maintenance of traffic plans. These are the plans that are released for construction, and we have to make sure under the status it says release for construction. If it doesn't say release for construction, it will never integrate to Fieldwire. The next step, we need to go to the document, click on it, and we review it. We see the latest revision, Rev 7, and we view it from here. And we make sure that the drawings are not corrupted or damaged or something like that. And we have to make sure that to see how many pages of this document. So we have 25 drawings. The first step for integration between Equinix and Fieldwire, MTS decided and choose the time for the integration. We do it twice a day, one at 12 p.m. and the second one at 6 p.m. So let's say we receive tons of packages before noon. So all these design packages, they will integrate to Fieldwire on time at the same time. So after the integration, we go to the Fieldwire. Let's go to Fieldwire. I'm gonna search for this package that I talked about, which belongs to segment 4. We click on segment 4, and we see this is the package S423 maintenance of traffic design package, and it has the 25 sheets. That means all the plans integrated to Fieldwire perfectly. So we open the documents over here, and the point is with Fieldwire, when the integration works, it upload the documents individual drawings, not as a PDF file as in on Equinix. So let's say if one of the design or one of the team, they want to review sheet number 7, for example, they click on the drawing. Over here you can zoom in and zoom out, and you can move it around, and on the left hand side you will see this option where they can all the engineers can do their markups. So we have over here add a task, add hyperlink, add drawings, add shapes, symbols, and add text, or make also measurement for all they want. And all the team on this project, they can share this drawing, so they can see what exactly on the markups for this drawing. One more thing, if we go to the plans over here, or if you want to download the plans from Fieldwire, you can do that either by clicking the whole package or the whole drawings, or if you want, you can select certain drawings that you want to print out. So you go to action and you go all the way down to export plans, then you hit export. And in a couple of minutes, you will receive an email from Fieldwire with a link. You open the link and you will see those 2 drawings being uploaded, and you can print it out, whatever you want to do with it. So this is the process between Equinix and Fieldwire, and it's really a great tool for the engineers. It will make them easier for reviewing and doing the markups on Fieldwire. Back to you, Will.
Awesome. Thanks, Ziad. And yeah, I think there's a lot of cool things, and appreciate you walking through what that looks like for MTS. And glad to kind of say we're working on a really project alongside the team. And yeah, let's see here. Let me just make sure I'm sharing the proper screen. And does everyone see my screen all right? Just want to make sure. Sweet. Awesome. Thanks again for the awesome presentation, Colin, Ray, Ziad, for kind of rolling us through what API looks like for the team. Pretty excited. I think one other question I have for you, Raymond, is with regard to some of the new integrations that you might build in the future, what would that look like? And what would you hope that the integration would do and accomplish?
Well, we're currently working with our Fieldwire rep on our wish list. We're trying to get a more refined and automatic OCR and slip sheet process where we don't, where we can probably press one button and have it done for us, or maybe have it done automatically. So we're looking into that, and we're also looking into having an exclusive punch list task with dedicated colors and tabs incorporated into the system.
Awesome. I think that would be a really good one. And I think on one end that would increase visibility, not just for plan, sorry, but also for tasks as well across folks who kind of back to Jacob's point, if they're managing multiple projects, it could be a pretty good benefit to save time on, looking through each individual one. With that said, just want to cover a little bit today, handing it over to Jacob to talk a little bit about our API roadmap.
Yeah, thanks, Will. So yeah, we've got a couple features that I'd like to talk about, some recent stuff and some new stuff coming up. Next slide. Yeah, so recently we released our webhooks product into beta. You can think of this as just another tool in the developer toolbox for Fieldwire. And really with this, efficiency is the name of the game. So with a regular API integration, if you want to react to, let's say, tasks being changed, you constantly have to check Fieldwire to see if a task has been updated. And if you need to do this regularly, you might have to check every hour or every couple minutes, and that can cause a lot of back-end load on your servers. With webhooks, rather than checking every time to see if something changes, you can subscribe to an alert that will fire to your application when that change occurs. So it allows you to get a lot more real time without exhausting too many of your server resources. And so the events that can be triggered or that can be subscribed to cover changes to all of our core Fieldwire entities, so plans, tasks, files, etc. If new ones are updated or new ones are uploaded, new ones are changed, you can subscribe to those events and get that information back to your system. Cool, and then this next one, this one's in progress. We're really excited about this. This is our integration platform. It's in the very early stages, but this is a set of pre-built integrations that sit on top of our Fieldwire API that you can configure in a sort of no-code environment. So the thought here is that there are a lot of really common use cases with really typical apps that our customers are using that may not need a ton of customization or no customization at all. And these people may not have the resources to go out and build all of this custom API integration. So what we're looking to do is provide a set of pre-built integrations that can be really easy to set up, even if you don't have any sort of coding or developer experience. We have a couple integrations that are set in the beta, primarily for pulling SharePoint and Google Drive files into the Fieldwire Files tab. Again, these work in a real-time manner, so as you add stuff to Google Drive or SharePoint, that can automatically show up in your Fieldwire Files tab. We're also looking at an integration for Power BI. This is a common data visualization and analysis tool on the Microsoft ecosystem. And so this integration automatically pulls tasks and form data into that platform so that you can easily build the dashboards that you want to build without having to work on building the actual point-to-point integration piece. And so we're constantly looking for new integrations or evaluating new opportunities for integrations. So if you have any thoughts or ideas, feel free to reach out to your Fieldwire representative and get that feedback back to us, because that will help shape our roadmap going forward.
Awesome. Thanks, Jacob. And yeah, really excited to see all these upcoming new features that we're working on. And I think it's an exciting time for us at Fieldwire. We do also, at the end of the webinar, we have a post-webinar survey that actually has an area where you can type in some of the integrations that you would like to see. So if there's any requests, definitely make sure to document that on there, and we'll make sure to kind of add that to our list, and looking forward to gathering the responses there. And I guess with that said, sorry, jumping ahead of myself here. We've covered a decent amount of data today, and I think we just have one more last poll questions to maybe based off what you saw today, want to see if you're interested in building any integrations with our API. Let me just launch this one here. Oh. Interesting, not sure what happened there. There we are. And we'll just wrap up this poll in a minute and dive into our next session, where we'll kind of ask questions and seeing, let's see here. Anyways, maybe a little bit technical difficulties on our end, but with that said, let's dive into questions here. Let me open up the panel and I guess starting with the first one. Do we have any plans integrating with accounting software such as Sage? Maybe I'll hand that over to Jacob to take this one.
Yeah, so right now we don't have any kind of out-of-the-box integrations with Sage, but you could, in theory, use our API to build one yourself. Like I touched on with the integrations platform, that is something that we could evaluate as part of our future roadmap, though.
Awesome, thank you for that. And next one is, do you have developer resources that we can use or review? I think the first one that comes to mind, Jacob, and feel free to jump in, is we have this, I guess, developers at .fieldwire.com, which kind of is a pretty comprehensive guide of what kind of Fieldwire can provide or do. Maybe, Jacob, you want to give a bit more context?
Yeah, so here we've got our interactive documentation that kind of shows you how to use the different endpoints on our API. There are also a couple guides that kind of walk you through some of the more complex processes that we have on our API, like file uploading or dealing with custom task attributes. And there's also a Q&A section or a forum. If you get stuck, you can ask questions and get those answered by either our team or somebody else who's using the platform.
Awesome. And I got one question. Interested in using Fieldwire's API, but don't have the resource to build it out. What can we do? Kind of what I mentioned earlier, we do have some of our third-party developers that we can recommend to you. And if you're interested, please reach out to your Fieldwire representative. And if you don't know who to reach out to, you can reach out to our support at fieldwire.com, who can help kind of guide you and get you started on that process. Another question is, what about Microsoft Teams? We have SharePoint folder structure, but want to use Fieldwire primarily for the document markup coordination. Can we set up individual folder paths?
Yeah, so as I understand how Microsoft Teams and SharePoint interact, there's like a SharePoint folder for each kind of Teams channel. With the SharePoint integration, you can select specific folders that you want to pull into your Files tab. So I think the answer to your question is yes, but the devil is always in the details.
Awesome. And within Forms API, is there a way to retrieve timestamps when a form changes status and by who? If not, is this on the roadmap?
I'll need to double check that. But as part of our webhooks beta, I believe we'll be, if it's not already there, we'll be adding form updates to our events that could be subscribed to, which should help with this use case if I understand correctly. Otherwise, there should be an updated at field on the forms entity that should tell you when the form changes. It won't just be specific to status, but it should also cover some of the other things.
Gotcha. Awesome. Thank you for that. And another question is, what is the timeline for the beta integrations to be active? For example, Google Drive and some of the ones we mentioned.
Yeah, so we are starting to roll out like a closed beta this month. So if you are interested, reach out again to your Fieldwire rep to get added to that list. I think Google Drive is first and is just starting to roll out, and then SharePoint will be coming shortly after that.
Awesome. And one question from the audience is also, will you be able to share the presentation with the audience at a meeting before? And unfortunately, could not join earlier. Answer is yes, we'll have the recording and deck sent out after our webinar. So no worries to kind of review. Feel free to review that, review the content at your leisure. Let's see here, any other good questions? I think we have a lot of good questions. Just want to make sure we have this tailored. And cool, I think. Here. Well, I think if we don't have any more questions on that front, perhaps we can wrap it up a little bit earlier today and give everyone a bit of time back to the rest of the Wednesday. And I guess before I wrap up, just to reiterate, we will provide a copy of the deck and recording after the webinar. In any case, we aren't able to answer the questions, or if you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to you and we'll make sure to follow up on some of the unanswered questions. Additionally, feel free to leverage our online resources to learn a bit more about how you can leverage our API. And if you're interested to see some of the past webinars, definitely check out our webinar page where we have recordings, and also any upcoming webinars are also posted there. Lastly, please don't forget to fill out the survey after the webinar. It really will help us kind of shape the future webinars and assess our performance and see what we should deliver in terms of content. And thanks here once again for everyone to participate in this webinar. Shout out again to Colin, Ray, Ziad. Appreciate everyone's work on kind of presenting what API can look like for a company. And hope to see everyone in the next one. Thanks again, Jacob, for walking us through what an API is. Take it, everyone. Have a good rest of Wednesday. Bye now.